Good afternoon and welcome back to Bowling Green, Kentucky for the Electrek Formula Sun Grand Prix 2025. Thank you for joining us here on our live stream. If you were watching our one this morning, we apologize for the abrupt ending from the technical difficulties, but I expect we will be here a little bit longer with you this afternoon. Hopefully those are all resolved. My name is Jonathan Mullen. I'm on the Formula Sun Grand Prix staff, and I'm here with Aaron from Electrek again.
Yeah, hi Jonathan, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have Aaron here on our live streams and to have him, along with several of his colleagues from Electrek, here on site for the Electrek Formula Sun Grand Prix. Obviously, they are our title sponsor and a big reason of why this event continues to happen.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, we at Electrek are proud and humbled to be able to have the opportunity to sponsor such an amazing solo car race. Do you want to walk me through some of the scores so far?
Yeah, so we've had 10 teams cleared for the track. 10 of them have completed at least one lap, with several of them going consistently since the morning. So in our MOV class, the two teams with the most laps are Polytechnique Montreal, car number 55, and App State, car number 828. Poly has 16 laps, and App State, who you see coming across the front right there, just finished their 12th lap. Behind them, we have in the SOV lap. My apologies. I misread that. Polytechnique has 31 laps, and App State's just behind them, just finishing their 31st lap. Behind that, we have our SOV cars being led by Berkeley with 29 laps, Stanford with 27, University of Illinois with also 27, Western Michigan with 21, Waterloo with 18, Florida Poly with 14, and Georgia Tech, our third MOV, with 8 laps.
So, Jonathan, can you tell me anything about the race? Have there been any technical difficulties or any trouble with teams on the track?
So I've seen some of the cars have been out, but if you were watching our live stream earlier, you saw Georgia Tech from the start line exit into the pit. So they've been having a few issues with their car. They've been on and off the track, tracking down those electrical problems. Additionally, I've seen a few pit stops from teams like Western Michigan, Waterloo, Florida Poly, Illinois, and Coastal. Really, almost the entire SOV class has been in and out of the pits a couple times, resolving some minor issues, but they've been able to fit them right in hot pit and get right back on the track after a short break.
Wonderful.
So you just saw that was the Waterloo car completing a lap on the track there. So that was their 19th lap, which was a 10-minute and 51-second lap. Right now, the fastest laps on the track are coming from our leading MOV cars, both in the mid 5-minute range. Their App State's last lap was 5:58, and their best lap was 5:33 a few laps ago. Poly Montreal has the shortest MOV lap so far at 5 minutes and 9 seconds, and our fastest lap so far of the day is from Stanford at 4 minutes and 45 seconds. So we've got a little bit of a lull here on the front straight, but we can take you up to the drone. And we have our drone operator and videographer, Sonny, following a car on the track. Let me see if I can see which car this is. It looks like the number 6 car from University of California, Berkeley. They are currently leading the single occupant class with the most laps, just shortly ahead of Illinois and Stanford. We can pan over here. You can see one of our multi-occupant vehicles. That's Poly Montreal. See if the drone can catch up to them. The track here at NCM Motorsports Park is 3.15 miles long. So for every lap, solar cars are driving just over 3 miles. For our multi-occupant vehicles, if they have more than one person in the car, they get credit for person miles or person laps. So every lap for them can be 2 person laps, or for Georgia Tech up to 4 person laps. We can see a car coming up the front straight here, so we'll switch over back to that camera. This is the Western Michigan car. They just completed their 22nd lap in just over 8 minutes.
And it looks like we have Esteban coming back around. Not going quite as fast as they were last lap at 4 minutes and 59 seconds.
Looks like it's actually slightly faster, so I think that's their fastest lap time.
Ah.
They're going a little slower on the front straight, but faster overall.
Wonderful.
Now we have our second place MOV car coming down the front straight. That lap was just over 6 minutes from App State. Poly Montreal going a little bit faster, maybe to try to build an edge here in the first day. Looks like Sonny has tracked down another car with his drone, so let's switch over and see who he's found. I believe that is car number 24 from the University of Waterloo. He's got a couple of cars coming up behind them, we'll see as well.
Jonathan, can you talk about what makes this track different from other tracks that Formula Sun Grand Prix has been held at in the past?
So this is the 25th anniversary of the first Formula Sun Grand Prix back in 2001. So we've been to a number of different tracks over the year. This track is unique in a couple of ways. One of the ways is that it's one of the longer tracks we've been to. So it gives the solar cars a little bit more space.
3.2 miles, right?
Yeah, just under 3.2 miles. So there's a little bit more space for the teams to spread out, which is good when we have an event as large as the last 2 years here. Additionally, this car has a lot of rolling hills, which is maybe what you think of when you think of the terrain in Kentucky. So there's, I believe, 26 turns on this track, and a lot of hills. And there's a big feature on the backside they call the sinkhole, which is about, I think, a 30-foot drop and then a turn back up into the next turn. Kind of a little bit like a corkscrew there. So that can be a challenge for some of the teams to make sure they maintain enough momentum and speed through that entire feature so they can get out the other side. Solar cars are not really built for power, so they can't get stuck on a steep uphill, so the teams have to make sure to manage that correctly. Let's see which car this is Sonny's found with the drone. Looks like that's Western Michigan, number 786. They spent a little time off the track this morning, but they're back on racking up the laps, trying to catch up to the 3 leaders in the SOV class. They are, looks like 6 laps behind Stanford, who's in 3rd place, and just a couple laps behind, it's 8 laps behind 1st place, so we got a real logjam there at the top of the SOV class right now. As you can see, we're following Waterloo and Calsel up the front straight. We have a few more cars behind them, so we're going to switch you over to our finish line view here. See what the lap times are for our leader in the SOV class, Calsel. So Calsel is doing about 6-minute and 30-second laps. Behind them, you actually had Stanford and Esteban, Polytechnique Montreal. Stanford's doing also about 6.5-minute laps, so keeping up with Calsel. They're just 2 laps behind Calsel at this point in time, so they're maintaining pace roughly right now.
Here we go. We have another 3 teams coming around the bend.
That first team across the line there is Western Michigan. That was a 7-minute lap. App State there with just over a 6-minute lap, followed by Waterloo with about 11-minute lap.
So, Jonathan, can you walk me through what's the purpose of the booths that are stationed at the turns on the track?
Yeah, so we rely on volunteers, which we collect from all the various teams competing here, as well as maybe some of their alumni who are visiting, or other volunteers, to man these booths, which are at almost every corner on the track. And in these booths, they have a variety of color of flags. They have yellow, they have some points red, some points black, and at the start line here we have green. And those flags are to communicate to the drivers on the track. So if they put out a yellow flag that they're waving, that means there's a hazard on the track, and the cars need to be aware that there may be a broken down car, there may be people responding to a broken down car, and so they should be slow and cautious. If there's a red flag, that means that the track is shut down, so there's a major incident, and the solar cars all need to come to a stop at the side of the track. And then we have one special booth which has a black flag. So that's the booth right before pit entry, and if you get black flagged, you're required to enter pit. So that can be if a solar car loses communication with its team, they may ask for it to be black flagged. If the inspector's staff see something they're concerned about on the car, a safety issue, they may black flag the car to bring it in to be inspected. And then of course here at the booth at the start line, we have the green flag and the checkered flag for the start of the day and the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. So, and also safety is a pretty big aspect of ACS, but also Formula Sun Grand Prix. Can you talk about some of the safety aspects of the car? Like I've noticed honking that they do when they go around other players.
Exactly. So solar cars have a fairly limited vision in some directions. So in order to help the drivers know that there may be traffic coming up behind them, solar cars are required to honk before and during passing. Additionally, they're required to use turn signals to indicate that they are going to pass, to indicate to teams behind them that they're going to be doing a maneuver like that.
Right. These are almost like real cars in a way. Kind of like they're on the road.
Yep. So this is not, your typical race, in that the solar cars drive and their teams really want to avoid at all costs any sort of contact or any sort of jostling for position. They want to go out there and do their consistent lap times that their strategy tells them they can do, and basically be undisturbed.
Mm-hmm. So it looked like we had Esteban just come by.
Yeah, they've seemed to have found themselves a nice gap here.
Yeah, so. And they're one of the faster cars out here, right?
Yeah, so our MOV cars tend to be a little bit faster in terms of their average time. Mm-hmm. SOV cars typically are capable of faster laps. They're a little bit more nimble. Mm-hmm. But our MOV cars have bigger batteries, and they're allowed to take power from the wall overnight as part of their scoring formula. And due to that, they tend to go a little bit faster during the day.
So what's the motor configuration of an MOV car? Is it just single motor like the SOV?
So I believe all of our MOV cars this year are running 2 motors.
Okay. So that contributes a lot to the speed.
Yes.
Gotcha.
2-wheel drive is helpful, and 2 bigger motors is helpful too. So they're built for a little bit more power because they have to move a lot more weight.
Mm-hmm. And as a reminder, I'm Aaron with Electrek. We're the title sponsors for the Electrek Formula Sun Grand Prix 2025, and I'm joined by Jonathan.
I'm Jonathan Mullen, and I'm on the staff of the Formula Sun Grand Prix.
Thank you for having me and allowing me to ask lots of questions about the event.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, someone else to talk with on the live stream. Keep it interesting as we wait for these cars to come around. And of course, great to have everyone from Electrek here helping support this event. So it looks like we have our next leading MOV car on its way in as well, passing the finish line here. They seem to have also found themselves a nice gap where they can just do the laps they want to, at the speed they want to, in peace. That was a 6-minute and 22-second lap from App State. Looks like we have a few more cars coming up the front straight here. I believe the first one you'll see is Florida Poly, who we haven't seen on the track. They snuck back on just a few minutes ago. So this is their first lap since we started the live stream. Right behind Florida Poly is the 22 Illinois car, and behind that, Esteban. There's Florida Poly with a 7-minute lap. Illinois with just a little bit shorter lap. Right about 7 minutes still. Next up we have Poly Montreal. That was a 5-minute and 36-second lap. So you can see the solar cars here as they go past the front straight. At the end of the front straight here, you can see Poly Montreal finishing up on the Grand Chicane. And then they go around into corner 1, which is one of the tighter corners on the track. So they need to make sure to take all that speed from the front straight and either coast early enough, or they can use their regenerative braking to put some of that energy back into the battery. Got 2 more cars coming almost side by side here across the start line. That's Calsol with their 6-minute 16-second lap, and Stanford right behind with a 6-minute 15-second lap. So Stanford slowly making up that 1 lap they are behind Berkeley. We currently have 10 teams cleared for the track. I believe 8 of them are currently on the track. Waterloo is in the pit doing a driver change, and Georgia Tech is working on some issues with their car. We have a number of other cars working their way through tech inspections today, or as we call them in solar car, scrutineering. There's a few teams out at the dynamics station, and a lot of teams in at the static stations. Today is the last day to get through dynamics, so teams need to pass that today. If they have a few small things left to do at static scrutineering tomorrow, they will be allowed to complete that. But tomorrow will be when we see all the teams who are going to make it onto the track. We may see a few more later this afternoon. I know I saw Virginia and UT Austin at dynamics this morning. I believe Washington is also heading out there soon. Here we have App State coming across the front straight, across the finish line. As a 6-minute and 5-second lap. That's the Western Michigan car you see passing, heading down the end of the front straight. They just completed a 7-minute lap. So update on the standings. These are unofficial standings. At the end of the day, there may be penalties assessed, or there may be a few laps invalidated if teams had to push their car to recover it. But at this point, our electronic timing shows Western Michigan just finished their 25th lap. That puts them in 4th in the SOV class, behind Stanford with 31, Illinois also with 31, and Berkeley with 33. On the left side of the screen there, you can see Waterloo heading out of the pit. They just completed a driver swap, and they will be going out to do their 22nd lap. In addition to getting their driver out of the car and a new driver in during the driver swap, all drivers at the event are ballasted to a total weight of 80 kilograms, which is about 175 pounds. This also includes passengers in the MOV class. So during the swap, the ballast will have to be exchanged, and as it's exchanged, it has to be approved and seen by a member of the pit lane race staff before the team can go back out. They also do checks to make sure that the driver's communication is working, that they have water, and that the lights and horn are working.
I think right here is fine.
Just had 2 cars cross the finish line here, completing another lap. That was Florida Poly, number 79, followed by the University of Illinois, number 22. That was the 17th lap for Florida Poly and the 32nd lap for Illinois. There we have Cal Sol, followed just by Stanford. That was 34 for Cal Sol and 32 for Stanford. So Stanford and Illinois have remained right together at 32, just 2 laps behind Berkeley with 34. Western Michigan is catching up with 25, followed by Waterloo with 21 and Florida Poly with 17. In our MOV class, Poly Montreal has put 1 more lap between them and App State, 37 to 35. Georgia Tech is not currently on the track, but they did complete 8 laps earlier this morning. That was car number 828, App State, with a 6-minute and 10-second lap. Their laps are currently just a little bit slower than Poly Montreal, but they're for the most part maintaining pace here. It's another fast lap from Pauli Montreal, 5 minutes and 17 seconds. Not quite their fastest, but one of the faster laps for them. Solar cars seem to all be in a group on the back of the track right now. We should see them heading up front here momentarily. So a little bit of a traffic jam back before the corkscrew at the back of the track. Looks like we have a line of cars coming up the front. And because of that, that opened up the design space, and these narrow bullet cars have become very common. They've actually won the World Solar Challenge the last couple of years, and last year our first place at American Solar Challenge was the Michigan car, University of Michigan, who had a long, narrow bullet car. You still are seeing both designs made by top teams around the world. But the bullet car is definitely the more popular option here this year at American Solar Challenge. There are 4-wheel bullet cars and 3-wheel bullet cars. Here's one of those 4-wheel bullet cars coming from number 24 Waterloo. Next up, you're going to see our 2-seater single occupant vehicle. This is number 55 Pauli Montreal. They are similarly, you could call this a multi-occupant catamaran, where they have 2 fairings, where the driver's in one, passengers in the other fairing, and the solar array bridges across the top. That's a very common design for MOVs. In fact, all of our MOVs are that type of design, with slightly differing styling, and of course Georgia Tech being longer fairings to fit 2 people in each fairing for their 4-passenger vehicle. So right now on the track we have our two MOV cars, Pauli Montreal and App State, and we have 6 single occupant cars. That is CalSol, Waterloo, Florida Poly, Illinois, Western Michigan, and Stanford. Additionally cleared for the track is Georgia Tech. They completed 8 laps earlier today, but are currently working on something in the pit. We actually have Aaron back with us, who will give you an update on that momentarily. And then we also have Montana State, who's cleared for the track and still getting their car ready, but hopefully we'll see them out here shortly. So I have Aaron back with me here. He's done a short walkthrough of the garages and is going to bring us an update on some of the teams who aren't at the track. All right, so now we're here with Aaron, who's done a walkthrough. He's checked in on Georgia Tech, as well as several of our teams who are close to getting cleared to hopefully join these teams on the track.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. So, I walked over to the dynamics area to see some of the teams that are currently undergoing evaluation. Thank you, Jonathan. So currently in dynamics, we have the University of British Columbia, UBC, and their SOV vehicle, single occupant vehicle. And they're just finishing dynamics and expect to be on the track soon today. Also in dynamics currently is Missouri University of Science and Technology, and they tell me that they are just currently finishing up dynamics in a small mechanical failure. And then we also have UW, University of Washington, and the Sockeye vehicle. And this is actually their first year racing the car. And actually the car is from one of the teammates' high school teams. And it's their first time competing in the Formula Sun Grand Prix. So it's kind of exciting to see a car from a high school team. And then we also have an update on Georgia Tech, sorry. So the team is telling us that they burnt out one of their connectors, so a part broke on the vehicle, and they fixed it, and they're currently implementing some code changes, and they expect to be back on the track soon here. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. So we hope to see Georgia Tech back out here soon, and some of those other teams cleared to get out here and join them. The teams that are out on the track right now, I'm sure are appreciating some of the space they're having. But as they keep going, the track's going to get more crowded, and it's going to be maybe hard to do some of these faster laps that Cal Sol, Poly Montreal, and App State are doing. So you just saw Cal Sol and Stanford pass through, followed by Illinois. I think Stanford and Illinois are on the same lap count, so I guess Stanford has passed Illinois, but by about 200 feet. So they're real close there, and they're 2 laps behind Berkeley, who's leading the pack there. So those 3 teams are real close together so far this morning. Now we have App State completing another lap. And a little bit behind them is Poly Montreal, who's a couple laps ahead of them as well.
So in addition to UBC, MUST, and University of Washington soon joining the track, I also got an update on UK as well. And this is their first year with their current vehicle. They don't expect to be out racing, but I'm told that they're learning a lot and taking in the experience, and hope to be back on the track next year.
Awesome, yeah. So the Formula Sun Grand Prix Formula Sun Grand Prix was started as a way to give teams an opportunity to test their cars in off years between American Solar Challenges. So it is a real competition on its own, but some teams come here with the intention of testing their car and making sure they're ready for American Solar Challenge next summer.
Mm-hmm. And for being an off year for American Solar Challenge, this is quite astonishing for the amount of teams that we have. 34 registered teams and 7 guest teams.
Yeah, it's a really large event year this year, which is really great. We have 7 guest teams, as you mentioned. These teams are teams that either didn't finish their car or haven't even started building their car now and are just starting a team. And they're here to learn about the race, learn from what they see the other cars designed like, meet people on the other teams and learn about the challenges they faced so that they can set up their team to be ready to compete next year or the year after.
Mm-hmm. It's so wonderful to see the word getting out on the event.
Yeah, so we hope to see many of those teams with their new cars in the coming years, and some of the cars that are here this year that may not get onto the track, we know we'll see back next year for American Solar Challenge, and hopefully they will be complete, ready, and tested to get on the road for a several thousand mile road competition. And there's an American Solar Challenge. The Formula Sun Grand Prix serves as the qualifier. So teams, cars, and their drivers are required to get a certain number of laps. That laps depends on which track we're at and how long the track is. but they're required to achieve that number of laps to qualify to get on the road if there's an American Solar Challenge following Formula Sun. We got a little bit of a lull here up on the front straight. We can switch you back to the side camera looking across the track. You can see the number 22 Illinois car coming across. You can actually see 3 segments of the track here, but the solar cars are so short you won't see them over some of the walls here. You have App State passing by as well.
Now, Jonathan, is it unique that the track isn't just flat all the way around? It's hilly. Is that something that we don't see often at the Formula Sun Grand Prix?
So we've been to some other tracks with elevation for sure. First that comes to mind is Circuit of the Americas, and have famous 3-story hill at the front at the first turn, which is a huge challenge for solar cars. But it is true that a lot of tracks have been flatter than this one, which provides different challenges for the solar cars. Can provide opportunities for regenerative braking on the downhills, but also require more power on the uphills. And when you combine braking and acceleration, you can run into thermal problems. So it provides a different challenge for teams to keep their car on the track all day.
Right, and there's also some unique aspects about this track. Can you talk about the corkscrew?
Yeah, so the sinkhole at the back corner is actually modeled off the famous corkscrew from Le Mans. It's actually kind of mirrored. And they name it this sinkhole. Obviously, Kentucky, pretty famous for sinkholes. If you know anything about the National Corvette Museum, they had quite the famous sinkhole a few years ago in their showroom. And so that feature has a banking uphill, or first downhill right turn, followed by an uphill left turn. And in that spot, teams have to be, or drivers have to be conscious of the speed they're carrying to make sure they can get out. Most of these cars won't be able to start from a stop on that hill, so they need to make sure to carry enough momentum and give themselves enough space to make it out of this sinkhole. Looks like we have a bit of a traffic jam coming down the front straight here. We have 5 cars. You're going to hear lots of honking here as we have cars passing cars passing cars. So on the left side of your screen, first across the line is number 6, followed by 828 App State, 55 Poly Montreal, 16 Stanford, and 24 Waterloo. Just a little bit behind coming here as well is number 22 Illinois. I have a question about the solar arrays on these cars. So we have different solar array regulations by class. So I'll start with the single occupant class. In that class, teams are allowed 4 square meters of silicon-based solar cells. There's a few different options for suppliers and cells, but for the most part, we have mostly SunPower Maxion cells at this competition. Of course, those cells come in several different bins with varying efficiency, but for the most part, these are relatively high-end Maxion silicon cells. In the multi-occupant vehicle class, we allow the same types of cells, but they get 5 square meters. So about 25% more power coming off their solar array. And again, in that class, to my knowledge, everyone on the track and everybody here is using Maxion SunPower silicon arrays. Can switch you over to the view here looking across the track. You just saw Florida Poly cross the track there. And we should see that whole traffic jam that just came off the front straight running by here shortly. This is turn 12 we're looking at back here. Solar cars have a bit of a windy path to get here. And then they head across the front here, all the way back to the corkscrew, onto the front straight. So there you see Esteban, number 55. Got 828 App State. Then we have some of our single occupant vehicles. We got Calsol, Stanford right on their tail. Next up we have the third place SOV, University of Illinois car, number 22. The track here at NCM Motorsports Park is open to the public to attend Formula Sun Grand Prix. So if you are local, definitely feel free to come by and see the solar cars on the track. There's no cost to enter. And we have some great viewing platforms that are open to the public here on the back of the garages, and you can see most of the track, and you can see the solar cars. Can bring you back to the front straight. I believe Florida Poly is coming. Florida Poly with a 6-minute flat lap.
Oh, you did?
That was our leading MOV, Poly Montreal, number 55, the 5-minute 33-second lap. And next up will be App State, and we'll see what their lap time is. Of course, laps are not the determination of the result for multi-occupant vehicles. That's just one of the many factors. Of course, getting more laps in is helpful. So that is 6 minutes for App State, 6 minutes 5 seconds. So they are slowly gaining on Poly Montreal. I believe they're just over a lap behind at this point in time. Now we have our leading multi-occupant vehicles coming through, or single occupant vehicles, excuse me. We have Berkeley, number 6, and Stanford, number 16, right behind them. Both doing 6.5-minute laps. Stanford is 1 lap behind, I believe, Berkeley, and maintaining pace. 2 laps behind Berkeley and maintaining their pace with them. Now we have another single occupant vehicle making its way down the track towards our position here at the finish line. This is car number 22 from the university, maybe telling them something different than the other teams are doing. So we'll see. It's a long 3-day competition, so it's always good to get laps in on day 1, but you got to get laps on all 3 days. So that number 22 car is my old team, so I give a shout out to them. I'd ask who my favorite team is, somebody in the chat. My favorite team is all the teams who are here and ready to go on the track. It's always good to have more teams on the track, so we always appreciate the teams that show up ready to go and ready to race. That car still does have a few things I worked on it, so that's always fun to see. But I'm a fan of all the teams. I have a question about the formula for the MOV class. So the formula for the MOV class has 5 factors. The first factor is total person miles. So 1 lap is just under 3.2 miles, and you multiply that by the number of people in the car. So for for Poly Montreal or App State, that number is 1 or 2. For Georgia Tech, that number is 1, 2, 3, or 4. So Georgia Tech has the ability to get almost over 12 person miles per lap, whereas Poly Montreal and App State can only get about 6. The second factor is whether they meet the target speed. MOV vehicles are required to maintain at least a 30 mile per hour average over the entirety of the event. So if there's a cloudy day, they can go slower as long as they make it up the next day. But they're required to maintain that minimum speed. Next factor is completion factor, which is solely based on lap count. The team that has the highest laps gets a multiplier of 1 here, and then everyone else is scaled based on that. And the last factor for Formula Sun Grand Prix is the external energy used. So teams are allowed to start with 1 full battery, and that counts as energy used. And then throughout the event, if they charge from the wall, that is metered. They may not charge from the wall. Poly Montreal has done an entire Formula Sun Grand Prix without charging from the wall. It all depends on what their strategy is. They have all these factors, and they may decide to go for the win by maximizing some or by minimizing others. It's all in the weather, the car, the competitors, and what their strategy is to get the best result. In an American Solar Challenge year, we also have practicality judging, which is an additional factor, but we do not include practicality at Formula Sun Grand Prix. Here comes Poly Montreal. Got a 5-minute, 22-second lap. It's pretty fast, but their fastest lap was under 5 minutes earlier in the day. It's Florida Poly. 6 minutes and 1 second. It's pretty good, pretty up there with the top MOV teams. I spent a little bit of time off the track earlier in the day, but they're working on their laps to try to close the gap between them and the teams ahead of them. The team right ahead of them is this next car, Western Michigan, who did an 8-minute, 30-second lap. So Florida Poly is making up some space on them. I think we will see our 3 leading SOVs coming around shortly. Perhaps App State as well. So the solar cars on the track today until 6 p.m. and tomorrow they're on the track from 9 to 5, as well as on Saturday from 9 to 5 for 24 total hours of solar car racing here at NCM. Additionally, outside of race hours, solar cars have a couple of hours of evening charging. For SOV cars, this is solar charging only. For MOV cars, this is solar and or wall charging. And this will happen from 6 to 8 p.m. tonight and 5 to 8 p.m. tomorrow. The public is also welcome to attend that. And see the solar cars up close at that time. During evening charging, the solar cars are in the parking lot here. We have an area specified as the solar charging area, and the teams will be out there with their car. Just watching the solar cars soak up the rays as the sun set. We just saw our 2 leading SOVs cross the finish line here on another lap. Stanford still right on the tail of Berkeley, so still 2 laps behind, but maintaining pace and plenty of time over these next 3 days to make up 2 laps. There's our 3rd place SOV, number 22 Illinois, just under a 7-minute lap. A little bit slower than teams ahead of them, but still roughly maintaining a similar lap count, keeping themselves in good position for the next 2 days. We have a question about American Solar Challenge and the difference between driving on road versus track. So last summer we were also here at NCM Motorsports Park, and that year we were here for Formula Sun Grand Prix. But in even years, Formula Sun Grand Prix also serves as our qualifier for the American Solar Challenge, which is our cross-country road event. Last year's competition was about 1,400 miles from our start line in Nashville to our finish in Casper, Wyoming. And along that way, teams have opportunity to drive more than the minimum 1,400 miles, but that was the base length. So the track is, for most teams, they find it a lot more challenging on their car. The car undergoes a lot more dynamic stress as it goes around turns at speeds. It has a lot more stopping, braking, regenerative braking, accelerating. And for the drivers, it can be a lot more crowded. You know, you think of the open road as uncontrolled, but solar cars on the open road have a lead car and a chase car with them, acting as their eyes and ears. Whereas on the track, the drivers are out there all by themselves, and they are navigating potentially sometimes crowded situations with other solar cars. So a lot of our teams here, they build for the American Solar Challenge. They build a car that can do that long, sustained, open road competition. And they view Formula Sun as kind of the secondary competition, as the qualifier for the main every other year event. And when they do that, sometimes they get to the track and they find it quite challenging. So last summer we had several teams here who had trouble on turn 2. Several cars went off the track because their drivers took it too fast or because they didn't feel stable taking it at speed. And that's kind of the whole point of Formula Sun before we send people on the road, is that if your car can complete the track and your drivers are confident enough to drive on the track, we feel pretty comfortable that you'll be good and confident to drive on the open road. Obviously, the road is a lot more dangerous for solar cars. They're small cars, not as visible as real cars, as real production cars. So we want to make sure that they're doing well on the track before we send them out there. Apologies for the momentary drop. Looks like App State just completed a 6-minute 21-second lap. So they're maintaining a fairly consistent lap time here. Got update on 3 teams that are not on the track yet. Learned that the University of Washington is out working on dynamics, which is their last requirement to get on the track, as I understand. UBC has finished dynamics. They have a few pieces to work on before they'll get on the track. They should be out here later today. And Florida, number 5, Florida Gators, is cleared for the track. So we're going to hopefully wait here to see their first laps. I see that Western Michigan is pulling into the pit. Florida Poly is currently doing a driver swap in the pit. Waterloo has taken their car back to the garage, so they have some problem they're working on. Now you're seeing car number 16, Stanford, on the left, is passing Calsol, so they're making a move there on the leader. Stanford is in second place, 2 laps behind, but they are doing slightly faster laps. Calsol did about 6 minutes 55 seconds, and Stanford closer to 6 minutes 45 seconds that time. So they've made their move there to try to start making up that distance a little bit. Now we have Poly Montreal doing a 5:20 lap. So they are continuing to build their lead in laps in the multi-occupant class. We will see at the end of the day. At the end of every day, we will publish the daily scores for the multi-occupant class. So that's when you'll get updates on external energy, person miles, and total laps. That was Illinois. They're doing 6-second lap minute. So that is a little bit faster than the two teams ahead of them just did. So they may be making up some ground. As I was saying, at the end of every day, we will get updates on the MOV class. So I don't know, but I believe both teams currently are running with 2 passengers. So they should be getting the same 6 person miles per lap. But if they weren't, we would find out at the end of the day how many person miles each team has. We have a question here about safety both on the track and on the road at ASC. So you can start with the track. As we were talking about earlier, we do have a flagging system out here, and it has 2 purposes. One is to warn solar cars of upcoming incidents, and the second is to protect people who are involved in an incident. So if there's a car stalled somewhere on the track, or a rescue team out to get a car that can't return under its own power, we want to keep them safe and notify solar car drivers or anything upcoming. So if there's a yellow flag waving, solar car drivers are required to slow down. They are not allowed to pass other solar cars other than the one broken down. And they must go through the area with caution until they get to the next stand that is not waving a flag. Additionally, there's the red flag if something happens on the track that requires all the solar cars to stop. So this happened last year at the sinkhole. We had 4 teams get stuck on the exit of the sinkhole, which is the steep left uphill turn, and that left practically no way for a solar car to safely get through between them. So we had to red flag the track until those solar cars were cleared off the track. We have in the past had incidents at FSGP. We have had drivers take their skinny cars through tight turns at too high a speed and recover by going off the track, or occasionally they have turned on their side. And we work with all the tracks we go with, including NCM Motorsports Park here, to have a emergency response team ready. So NCM has their track safety team on standby throughout the event, ready to go out and help in any of those cases. Solar car teams are also required to have safety equipment in their pit at all times, and we have rescue vehicles that the solar car teams can bring that out to their solar cars. But generally, if there's a incident serious enough, the NCM team will beat them to that solar car and help the driver get out. If there were to be a fire, they have equipment for that. I don't believe we've had a fire at FSGP in quite a long time. But we do have those with us here at the track. There have been occasions on crowded tracks where solar cars have little bumps to each other. Of course, teams don't like this. We have given out penalties in the past for things like that. But generally, that's not too much of a problem. Teams are very protective of their own cars to the extent that it's very unlikely they would take any risks that would put them in a position to damage that car or other cars. On the road, we do add a additional scrutineering station for teams that are going on the road competition, and that is the American Solar Challenge Support Vehicle Station. In this station, the teams must demonstrate how they drive with a solar car on the road, with a lead car and a chase car in a position to keep the solar car protected to the extent possible, as well as having all of their emergency equipment in the car, and not just in the car, but easily accessible, not buried, in the bottom of a trunk. And so we go through these rules with them and the best practices. But ultimately on the road, it's up to them to make the best decisions to keep their team safe. We do pre-drive the entire American Solar Challenge route. We have planned a tentative route and then gone on the route drive and decided that we're not comfortable with certain roads and rerouted the route from that. So we do pre-plan the route very carefully. Teams have lots of information about the route. If there's potentially hazardous roads or challenging merges, we'd be sure to call that out ahead of time. We may put extra diagrams in, special instructions about what lane they should be in to make their lane changes when there will be the fewest conflicts as possible. So we do everything as possible to support them to drive safely on the road. So we got a lot of team finishing laps here. So what do we do? An update on
Control copies 18, thank you.
on the current standings. So in our MOV class, in first place we have Poly Montreal, who's completed 47 laps. App State is a few laps behind with 44. And we still have Georgia Tech at 8. In our single occupant class, Berkeley is still maintaining a 2-lap lead on Stanford officially. I think it's a little closer to 1.5 now based on their recent lap times. But Berkeley has 42. Stanford has 40. Illinois is 1 behind that at 39. And then Western Michigan is in 4th with 31. Florida Poly just edges out Waterloo for 5th. So Florida Poly has 24 laps and Waterloo has 23. So I am looking for Florida to see where they're planning, when they're planning to get onto the track here. Hopefully we can bring you their first lap or two. We have an alumni in the chat here pointing out that at ASC, a lot of the times the more dangerous situations on the road are from other drivers who are just surprised to see a solar car. You know, you have a car drive up next to you to take pictures or video, and then they cause a huge traffic jam behind you, which frustrates the other drivers. And so solar car teams are told about these situations, or they learn about them from their alumni and how to avoid it. So you know, if you see a solar car in the road, please, don't be one of these people, but you may see them signaling to other drivers to please pass them. They may slow down to help facilitate a pass. And we do have requirements if there's enough traffic lined up behind a solar car for them to pull into the shoulder to facilitate a pass. Just like on the track, the solar cars like wide open roads with as little traffic as possible so they can drive whatever speed, you know, within obviously the speed limits that their strategy tells them they should be driving. And we try to find them those roads when we design the route. Looks like the University of Illinois team is into the pit, potentially doing a driver swap here. Until the University of Florida is putting their car together, hopefully to get onto the track here. I have a question about the variable number of seats in the MOV vehicles. This year we have one 4-seater car from Georgia Tech, and in the past we've had a few other teams bring 4-seaters. I think the most popular number of seats is 2 seats in an MOV, but teams right now are allowed to pick any number, 2, 3, or 4. I'm yet to see anybody do 3, but that would be an interesting option if anyone wants to take us up on that option. It is definitely true that 4-seater MOVs are difficult. Teams are, of course, still building these mostly with solar car parts, so they have to be very conscious of the weight of their vehicle in order to stay within the ratings of the parts. So it is a big challenge and requires a lot more planning and a lot more thorough system design than a two-seater does necessarily. So I think teams are realizing the difficulty. There is definitely advantages to doing four-seater if you can do it well, but teams have to look at it and decide whether the four-seater they can build can be better than the two-seater they can build. And I think we're seeing most teams realize that if they build a little bit smaller car, they can put a lot more finishing touches on it and have a lot more freedom in design. But we'll see. Georgia Tech can get out here. They can get a lot more person miles than any of the other teams. So I just got an update on team number 5, Florida Gators. I'm told they have a little bit of work to do on their car before they get on the track. So that might be 30 minutes at least before we see them. So we are going to end the live stream here momentarily, and we will plan to come back to you when we can see more teams on the track. So we hope to see Florida out here this afternoon, hope to see UBC out here this afternoon, and we should see Georgia Tech back out this afternoon. So we will continue to live stream throughout all 3 days of the events. I have the live stream scheduled for the finish line on Saturday. So you can go ahead and plan to see that we'll stream about the last hour from 4 to 5 Central Time on Saturday. And we will continue to announce on our social media more live streams throughout the rest of the event. Perhaps tomorrow at some point. We may get back out here tonight. I will continue to monitor the situation with when solar cars are going to get onto the track. We want to bring you as many cars on the track as we can, and I want to especially make sure we capture those teams that aren't currently on the track that we've been watching for the last hour and a half. So the best way to know when we are going to be live here on our YouTube channel is to subscribe and turn on notifications. You can get notified as soon as we go live, and I believe you can also set up to get notified when we schedule a live stream. You can also find our social media accounts. We will post on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us on Facebook at American Solar Challenge, as well as on Instagram at American Solar Challenge, and our website, americansolarchallenge.org. I want to end with a thank you to all of the sponsors who make this event possible. Obviously, our title sponsor, Electrek, and all of their work to help us bring this event this year. Altair as well, who is currently in our headquarters running Altair Challenge, where they will award one team a $10,000 grand prize for the best design in the design challenge. I haven't actually learned what the design challenge is this year. Last year it was a suspension design. Also want to thank MathWorks, who will be awarding a team a $500 award this year as well for the best use of MathWorks products in designing their vehicle that's racing this year. And all the rest of our sponsors, Generac, AESC, Retrospec, Blue Origin, Suncat Solar, Solcast, of course NCM Motorsports Park, and all of their support in running this event. I want to thank you all for joining us on the live stream. And as I said, we will come back to you as soon as we have some more solar cars to show you. So keep an eye out on social media and here on YouTube.